In this Battletech head-to-head, we're going head-to-head with two classic medium mechs. Two mechs that are very iconic with Battletech, but at exactly opposite ends of the Tactica. Shadowhawk versus Griffin. Now, let's jump in with the weapons profile, what each mech wants to do optimally. Then we'll go head-to-head and try to see, as a mech warrior, piloting this mech against this mech, what are some of those considerations? What would you try to do? And in terms of victory and tabletop glory, is one mech favored over the other? So the first thing we see with the Griffin, and I've covered both of these mechs in greater detail up to the Battletech playlist with my mech reviews, but the Griffin excels at long range. You've got the PPC, you've got the LRM-10. Both of those weapons have significant punch. That PPC is going to hit you for 10 points. That LRM pack is going to hit you with the scatter. You have the ability to really push out at long range combined with mobility. So the Griffin, the stock Griffin, wants to kind of keep you at a distance and just pulverize you. Now, the drawback to that, or the challenge in terms of Tactica, is that's all you have. If another mech or a tank or an opponent can close that distance or catch you close, you still have those two weapons, but you're dealing with minimums, and now you're dealing with really trying to push the heat, because not only do you have the regular Battletech modifiers, what's the distance, have I moved, have you moved, you're dealing with minimums. You're going to try and shoot more every single turn to hit. That heat's going to go up really, really fast. We also have the ammo of the 10-pack in that mech. Now, on the opposite side, the Shadowhawk is kind of a little bit of everything. Another really, really iconic mech. It's geared up to be long range and then medium/short range. For long range, you've got an autocannon 5 and an LRM 5. Both of those kind of work well. They match. They've got the range. And then moving to medium short, you've got a short range missile 2-pack and a medium laser. So what you have is the ability with the Shadowhawk to put out consistent damage at both ranges. It has a little bit of something. It's not focused, but it has a little bit of something at each range. And it wants to constantly kind of wear down the target. And if the target is a short-range machine, maybe it'll stay at a longer range, firing away, and then move in. Or if it gets caught, deal with short range. Or if it's a short-range machine, it'll work. If it's a long-range machine, it'll work to that short range. So that's what the Shadowhawk is trying to do. I have to say, I love the Hawk. I've got multiple Hawk miniatures. I love playing it. But for a medium mech, it's a little bit underwhelming. I mean, I would think an LRM-10 or a PPC and then maybe those two, but then kind of we're getting into a much heavier machine. We're moving into heavy mech territory. It feels like it should have a little bit more. But it has those two weapons in each of those brackets, and it's solid. The Tactica. So you're part of a lance, whether you're the Griffin or the Shadowhawk. You're engaged, and the target is 1-to-1. How do we approach this? From the Griffin's perspective, I just want to stay at a distance and pound the Shadowhawk. That's kind of what I have. And I can outshoot and outblast if it's a question of attrition. Yes, I'm going to try and use terrain. Yes, I'm going to try and use facing, all of that. But what's returned is an autocannon 5 and an LRM 5. Are all of those 5 missiles from the Shadowhawk shooting at the Griffin going to actually land unless there's a legendary roll? On the opposite side, the 10-pack's got a little more bite, but that PPC is pretty significant. That is an advantage over an autocannon 5 versus a PPC. So I'm going to try and stay at range, and the Griffin's going to try and do what the Griffin does. What I see with the Shadowhawk, the challenge here is, we're not talking light mechs. Well, light mechs wouldn't have all this type of weaponry, but we're not talking light mechs. What I mean by that is medium mechs, you've got some armor. You've got some staying power. You've got some tabletop presence. So the Tactica of the Shadowhawk what I would look to do would be to stay at a distance, stack my modifiers, weaken things with the autocannon 5, and weaken things with the long-range missile pack. Take down your armor, maybe get lucky, go to internal, and then since the Griffin doesn't have those close-in weapons, then I would try to rush forward and just blast you with the autocannon 5, the short-range missile 2, and the medium laser. How effectively would that work? Staying at that range game, I don't think that's going to work because I do not want to trade shots. If I'm that Shadowhawk, I don't want to trade shots with the Griffin. So what that really leaves me is exploiting the fact that the Griffin does not work well at point-blank range, and there's no other options. Although I do have to be sensitive. If I get that close, the mech warrior might just decide to rush me and go to physical attacks. I could counter that by physical attacks of my own. We are still in the same weight class, so it's at least a threat. It's not like I'm a heavy mech and we're going head-to-head with a light mech, and yeah, that light mech could try to punch me, but I'm just going to scrap it with a kick. I'm going to kick it, and it's just going to core out the engine. So what I see with the Shadowhawk is only one tactica, viable tactica, pathway to victory. On the way in, hit it with some long-range stuff, get close, and just pound away with the autocannon, the short-range missile 2, the medium laser, and stack so many modifiers in terms of movement and minimums and positioning that the Griffin has to shoot, but it can't. Now, the key, the counter to that, what map are we playing on? That's very nuanced. What else is around in terms of terrain? Both of these mechs, they're not fast, they're not slow, they've got some good speed, they've got good mobility. If I'm going to rush that Griffin, what's going to prevent it from not just backpedaling or running and gunning or sniping? How am I going to catch up to it from that tactica? So what I see this is not so much a clear-cut win over one mech over the other. I see two very, very distinct conditions that lead a pathway to victory. And it kind of reflects in the general tactica of these mechs. If the Griffin can keep the Shadowhawk at distance, even though the Shadowhawk's got some bite back, Griffin's going to punch through and I think take it. If the Shadowhawk can get close, a couple of shots on the way in, get close, push that advantage, then I see the Griffin in a lot of trouble. All right, turning it over to you, my fellow mech warriors, mech commanders, and mech techs. Where do you see this matchup going? Where do you see this head-to-head taking each machine?